So I have to tell you is that I have received a few messages here and there. They feel that Shrovindo is too idealistic, and therefore it is difficult to put it into practice. Well, that is a fact. But then there are no shortcuts. We will remain what we are at the same level of consciousness and hope that the world will change. It is just impossible, right? Because the essence of what Sri Aurobindo is saying right through in all his works is that unless man rises to a higher consciousness, there is absolutely no chance of any real progress. Till that time, we will be floundering in the mind, and every mental opinion, every mental viewpoint, every mental decision has both sides. Now, if you take up one side and just go on trying to argue or petition or doing anything of the kind, that will not lead us to the true understanding, right? So once this is clear, I know that it is very difficult, and I know that none of us have the right to speak on that higher level, but we should try to understand it at least intellectually, right? And then make the effort slowly. It might take years, in fact, it might even take lives, but the direction is absolutely clear. Change of consciousness. That is why the title of this chapter is The Necessity of Spiritual Transformation. Now, if you say it is too difficult, then you can forget your method. So, this is the important thing. Right? So now I will go back to the book and just a minute, I am not getting the book very clearly. Just 1 minute, I am just getting over the chapter. Yeah. So I will just the necessity of the spiritual transformation. I will read out the first two sentences, then we discuss that. Our normal conduct of life, whether the individual or the social, is actually governed by a balance between two complementary powers. This is not something that has to be understood mentally, because we are looking at our own conduct of life, all of us, right? So first, an implicit will central to the life and inherent in the main power of its action. When you say implicit will central to the life, it means that almost all our action is originated in the vital being. And secondly, whatever modifying will can come from the idea in man, in mind. For man is a mental being and operates through our as yet imperfect mental instruments to give this life force a conscious orientation and a conscious method. This is the key sentence. And this is what each one of us have to look into ourselves, and you will find that almost all our actions, our normal conduct, origin is the vital being. It is not the mental being. It is not the higher mental at all. Right? So see the next sentence. Life normally finds its own center in our vital and physical being. In its cravings and its needs, in its demand for persistence, growth, expansion, enjoyment, in its reaching after all kinds of power and position and activity and splendor and loudness. The first self-direction of this life force, its first orderings of method are instinctive and either entirely or very largely subconscious and magnificently automatic. See, now this is a very important word. The first movements are very spontaneous, automatic, and this is what we find as extremely beautiful. Right? So the next sentence that I explain: the ease, spontaneity, fine normality, beauty, self-satisfaction, abundant vital energy and power of the subhuman life of nature up to the animal is due to its entire obedience to this instinctive and automatic urge. So now you see, that's why we find animal life extremely beautiful. That's why you don't intervene the mind. You'll find it is, and the reason for its beauty is that it is spontaneous, acting according to its true nature. Now, you will find this also in children, especially before the mind has developed. Spontaneous, very beautiful. We love it, right? But once the mind enters, it's a very different thing. Now, many social thinkers have realized that this is so beautiful, and this is because these people are acting, I mean, in animals and subhuman life is acting faithfully to nature. So it is this vague sense that makes us back. No barking, and quite touching.
Kittu,
Yeah.
the sound is not good. There's something the matter with the sound.
Is it better now?
Yes.
But there is a dog that is barking right behind.
That might be my dog. I'm going to turn mine back off though.
Right. So now is it better?
It's better.
Okay. I will continue. So many social thinkers, including Nietzsche, have tried to look at this point of view and say, let us go back to nature. Right? So now this is Shrobindo is explaining in the next paragraph. You see the next page, 233. Nietzsche's idea that to develop the Superman out of a very unsatisfactory method is our real business is in itself an absolutely sound teaching. We probably become ourselves to exceed ourselves, implying as it does that man has not been found true nature by which he can feel spontaneously, not better. is what you have to understand. Once the mental being intervenes in human life, spontaneity disappears. So we have to be guided by social norms, this norm, that norm, that norm, that norm. If we don't do that, then we are acting according to our nature, but that nature is probably lower nature. So all social thinkers have found out this. So their idea is to become ourselves and to exceed ourselves. So that's a real question. Then the question of questions is that what is ourself and what is our real nature? So he said, the crime is the answer. Certainly it is all right, but in what shall we find the seed of that divinity? What is it called? Superman once self-found, and why can be secure from lapse into this lower and imperfect man. So now we have to find out what the self is, because to become ourselves, to exceed ourselves. So is it the intellect and will, the double aspected buddhi of the Indian psychological system? See, in India, when you use the word buddhi, you mean not only intellect, but also the ability to implement what your intellect. So if you have intellect only and not the character to implement it, then you are called a fool. And if you have no intellect, and then act according to your notions, that is also not the right thing. So that is where now Sri says, but this buddhi is so perplexed, so divided against itself, so uncertain of everything it means, up to a certain point indeed magically creative and efficient. But when all has been said and done in the end, so splendidly futile, at war with and yet so dependent upon and subservient to our lower nature, that even if in it there lies some seed of the entire divinity, can hardly itself be deceived, and at any rate gives us no such pure and divine foil as we have seen. I want you to reread this sentence carefully. And give it or not. I mean, that in your mind, right, that is very creative and many things, but it is also so terribly at war and subservient to our lower nature. If that is the truth, then evidently the buddhi cannot be the true self. Therefore, we say not the intellect and the will, but the supreme thing in us yet higher than the reason. The spirit here concealed behind the coatings, etc. etc. Right? Now, this is the old problem that you see, that is why one of the exercises that the mother has given for which she calls the first step, elementary first step in self control. It is not even spiritual, it is elementary first step in self control. The first thing that we have to do is to unite our being around the highest ideal. So you will find that all of us are divided. I mean, there is one part which aspires and wants to go up. There is another part which doesn't cooperate or is inert. And there are other parts which are absolutely hostile. Anybody who has been honestly tried to change himself will not live in this illusion that we are truly sincere. It's very difficult. And as Father says that when somebody comes and tells me that he's truly sincere, he is deceiving himself totally. Because true sincerity means every part of the being has to be turned to the divine. And that is extremely difficult. And in one of the letters of Guru, he says that you will find that there are whole parts of the being which will point blank refuse the divine or the higher life, which is determined to continue its own way. Well, we have no choice. So first of all, we have to realize that we are a very divided person. If you do not realize that, then you are living in a massive self-deception. Now, the next chapter paragraph, I just not read out the whole thing. When we speak of the Superman, we speak of something abnormal because it is not normal. And the normal human does not desire to be called out of its routine, mechanical round, and much worse, it is afraid of being of someone who has exceeded, and therefore he feels that he will be dominated by this. But the true object of supermanhood is not domination, but it is simply opening out our being to something higher than this. And then next he says something which is very interesting. This thing that we call humanity is itself abnormal in nature, because the vast majority of nature is living in the vital and physical plane. Right? So man is an abnormal, which he calls it a rapid freak, a sudden miracle. The entering of the mind into the consciousness is an abnormality. Right? So abnormality is not an objection. But this perfection is not found until the abnormal can find its own secure normality. This is a very important idea. Our normal level of consciousness, the vital physical touch with the mind. We want to live in the higher consciousness. That has to become normal to us. And that's a tremendous fight, right? So, if you want to understand the word normality, I can give you a very practical example. Let me say myself, my 100 meters timing. Normally, when I was young, you called me out with 15 minutes warming up, I will run in 12.3 seconds. That is my normal speed. If I want to have 11.8 seconds, then I have to make an abnormal effort to reach that stage. Right? Apply this to the consciousness. Find out the level of the consciousness in which he is. Right? Certainly, we are at a higher level than the plant and the animal, but we are not all the time in the mental level. And secondly, even on the mental level, there is an imperfection. Now, this imperfection is not something to be deplored. It's a privilege and a promise, right? Because it opens out to us a huge vista of self-development and self-exceeding. So you see now, the first step, if you want to take up the spiritual life, in fact, even if you want to progress, is not to be satisfied with oneself. If you are satisfied with yourself, it is finished. Why should you make an effort to progress? Because you are perfectly all right. It is this dissatisfaction which means that you will have to have a great and arduous labor of growth before you, but also a splendid crown if you can reach the top. So now we come to the next paragraph, which is the crucial paragraph. What is the defect from which we human beings have suffered? So see the second sentence. We see that at first sight, man seems to be a double nature. An animal nature of the vital and physical being, which lives according to its instincts, its desires, automatic orientation and method, and with that, a half-driven nature of the self-conscious, intellectual, aesthetic, intelligent, emotional, intelligently dynamic being of finding and understanding the true law of action. So the root of the problem is that we are all double natures. By which I don't mean that you are hypocrites. I don't mean that you are cheating others. But inside ourselves, there is one part that aspires and the other part that pulls us down. Right? So the animal part wants to possess, enjoy, right? But the semi-divine part also wants to possess and enjoy intelligently. But you see, you don't reject life. You completely change your whole approach. Right? And so this is the main thing. Right? Now, man has developed a new power of being, and his true sadharma lies in finding out the true law. Now, this is precisely what he has failed to do. He has laid some yoke on the intellectual, ethical, aesthetic rules on his vital and physical parts, and made it impossible for him to contend with or to be the mere human animal. But he has not done it successfully. Not for the rest of his life. The truth seems as far off as ever. So, now what is the root cause of this? So I'll read this whole paragraph and then we'll pause. I'll come back to the root of the whole failure indeed is that he has not been able to shift upward what we have called the implicit weight central to his life. His central will is still situated in his vital and physical being. Its drift is towards vital and physical enjoyment. Enlightened indeed and checked to a certain extent by the higher powers, but enlightened only very partially, not transformed. Checked, not dominated and uplifted to a higher plane. See, this is the important thing. All our conduct, daily behavior, right? When we are reasonable human beings, when we are what is called gentlemen, right? It is the higher mental being that is superimposing itself on the lower. So see the next sentence. The higher life is still only a thing superimposed on the lower, a permanent intruder upon our normal existence. Now you have to look at yourself carefully. Is this a fact or are you living in the higher life? Now he explains very beautifully. The higher life is still only a thing. The intruder interferes constantly with the normal life. Scolds, encourages, discourages, lectures, manipulates, readjusts, lifts up only to let fall, but has no power to transform, alchemize, recreate. So the intruder is the higher nature, and our normal life is the lower nature. By lower nature, I don't mean the only the animal nature. It is vital, physical, and even the mental life, right? So sometimes one thinks that this is intolerable. So religion tries to either have a death or escape out of this life into some other God knows where, right? Therefore, these two elements live together in a continual, a mutual perplexity, made perfect, uncomfortable, and ineffectual by each other. Look at the comparison. Somewhat like an ill assorted wife and husband, always at odds, and yet half in love with, or at least necessary to each other, unable to beat out a harmony, yet condemned to be joined in an unhappy leash until death separates. You see, look carefully. Our higher nature, we can call it the wife or the husband, depending on what you think. And our lower nature is the other one, continually fighting among themselves. Yet we have to live together. And in fact, it is the same body, so you can't even separate, right? You can't even have a divorce. You have a divorce, you're dead, right? So this is the exact situation of the human being. Right? These two elements live like an ill-assorted wife and husband, always at odds, and yet half in love with, or at least necessary to each other, unable to beat out a harmony, yet condemned to be joined in an unhappy leash until death separates them. Next sentence. This is very crucial. All the uneasiness, dissatisfaction, disillusionment, weariness, melancholy, pessimism of the human mind comes from man's practical failure to solve the riddle and the difficulty of his nature. So every time you are unhappy, you are dissatisfied, you are disillusioned, you are melancholy, say to yourself, the problem is not elsewhere. The problem is not solved. The riddle and the difficulty of this double nature, the higher nature and the lower nature. Therefore, it is very, very important that we learn to unite every part of the being around the highest ideal. I will not use the word cycle beat because that is very difficult to get. First, you have to discover the cycle beat. But those who have not discovered, they have got a higher being, which is close to the cycle being. At least unite the whole being around that. And as Shravinda says, it takes a very long time. For those who are destined, 30 years. For those who are not yet destined, might be 30 lives. Right? Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. So I want to warn you that don't expect success straight away. But if you are convinced that this is the right thing, then start on the path. You will fall, you will rise, you will fall, you will rise, you continue. Because it will not be in vain. Next time when you come back, even if you don't succeed this time, you will start from where you have left off. So don't give up, right? So now I come back to you, I look at you. So here we are. Now if you have any questions, oh, Shivika is there. Yeah. Utkarsh has come for the first time. Rishikesh is right visible in front of me now. I can see you. And Aurora Yoga, no? You are Aurora Yoga, isn't it? Yeah, so now if you have any question, you ask. Because this is pure psychology. And this is not yet spiritual psychology. Right? We are living at the level of understanding ourselves, right? And that is why I call it normal psychology. Understanding our physical, understanding our vital, understanding our mental, and of course understanding the spiritual urge that we have got in our being, right? So now tell me, Rishi, right? It is evidently difficult, right? Let us have no illusion. But is it worth trying or not? That is the only question. Hello, Rishikesh bhai, can you hear me?
Namaskar.
Oh,
The main problem today is the sound quality, which is
the
very difficult to.
sound quality.
Yes,
Is it better
it
now?
was difficult to judge. Sound quality was so poor that many words were getting dropped off. So we had to strain to try to understand and fix the words.
Well, then I have to call my computer man and
Yes,
get
yes.
right. I'll do that tomorrow itself. I'll do that.
The sound quality and the volume also has to improve.
And
Volume, the volume of the sound.
volume of the sound. I mean, I have made it maximum.
Well, you can ask your computer man whether he can improve.
I will check my mic and I will see that it is definitely
Sure.
improved.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yeah.
That will
Now
help
my
all of us.
is that this is a difficult effort. It is not easy, right? My
Hmm.
only view is it worth trying it or not?
Sure, it is worth trying. That is our goal.
Yeah, that is our goal. So we have to go on trying and don't expect quick answers. It will take time, right? But
Well,
at the
long-term goal.
yes. So we have to keep trying, and we
Yes.
are all in the same boat, right? Although I'm giving you talks, but I have all this double nature is there very strong in every one of us because there is a higher part, there is a lower part, like an ill-assorted husband and wife. Well, we have to face it square and try to move on. So we are all in the same boat. It is not a lecture, but it is just making you aware of what we have to do. Lona, you agree? I can't hear you. Your mic is now I should be able to hear.
I agree. We don't have the option to give up. It's our job.
We have to keep trying, that's all. And the second very important thing is don't try to change the world. Our responsibility is only ourselves. Right? We have to work ourselves. Social problems, political problems, well, we can't do much. What we can do is change ourselves. That is the biggest contribution to society, to politics, to education, to everything. Right? This is something which Bhagavan has told us repeatedly. Don't bother about the rest of the world. I mean, don't bother to change. If you want to follow what is happening, that is perfectly all right. But don't get into opinions. Don't take sides, because all are at an ordinary level of consciousness. Right? So this is very important to understand. So let us concentrate on our own individual growth. And as we grow individually, we contribute to the divine's work socially, politically, educationally, in every possible sphere. So this is very important. I wanted to tell you one more thing. I have decided that the next book, which will come in another 3 or 4 weeks, right, or even less, we will continue. That will be the ideal of human unity. That we will not read all the chapters. I'll pick out the chapters and give you the basic ideas. Right? The first 5 chapters are very important because whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, all of us are in politics. Wherever you are in life, there is some kind of politics that is going on. It is good to understand those principles, right? So if you understand those principles and then apply them to oneself in collective life, right? What you are doing in the human cycle is in the individual life. But what we are going to do in the human ideal of human unity is in the collective life. So I would like to read that carefully, but not read the whole book. Just 8 or 10 chapters which I'll pick up, which will give you. And then if you are interested, you can continue reading, and you can always ask me questions. It is very interesting if you are following politics closely with some depth, not some likes and dislikes, right? And secondly, if you have some kind of political understanding, then you must have done some kind of political science. But the point is that all of us, the moment you are living in a collectivity, there is politics. Wherever there is decision making, right, there are different opinions, and to some kind of. Take up the other chapter, other book. There is one chapter called self-determination. Extremely all this will take a few months. Right? Then after that, I will become whatever. If we have started this book, let us finish this trilogy, unity and the other one. So now, questions you can ask me.
Kittuda, can you hear me, Kittuda?
Who is speaking? Varsha?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. I cannot see you, but I can hear you.
I wondered you
They're saying voice quality is not good.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So as we progress in our spiritual journey, is it true that we have to, we do face negativity as we move along? Because sometimes I feel there are more negative forces at play when as I progress. So every time they tend to bring us down somehow.
I will tell you what mother says. The mother says that the moment one is...
And I do pray, but...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
The mother says that the moment one takes up spiritual life seriously, everything that is opposed to spiritual life will rise up. It becomes a fierce battle.
So what do we do then?
You have to fight it out. You have to endure. There is no other way. You have to impose your higher nature on the lower nature. If you are satisfied with yourself or somewhat satisfied with yourself, there will be no problem at all. Every time you want to make a progress, whether spiritual or anything else, it is a battle. It is not a, easy road. It is not. It is an easy road if you can surrender yourself totally to the divine. But that itself is very difficult, right? So
yeah.
So once you have started, there is no turning back. You go on, fight it out, right? It doesn't matter. But don't have illusion that it's easy, right? But it can be very enjoyable because every time you get a victory over yourself, you're very happy. There is a joy that is unbelievable. Right? That's why Mother says there is a far greater joy in conquering a desire than in fulfilling a desire. When you fulfill a desire, you're happy because you wanted a desire, no? But when you are on the spiritual life and you want to conquer the desire and you succeed in conquering, you get another delight, and that delight is a much higher order, right?
Right.
This choice is there at every step in our life. Nobody escapes it, right? Not even the most advanced monarchs, right? And
Hot already now.
fights, right? And one has to fight oneself, and one has to gradually move up towards the higher consciousness. Nothing to worry about that. After all, we are evolutionary creatures, and there is a huge amount of animality within us, right? We have inherited that. It is not your fault, right? All of us have a very big part of us which is animal and which is also vegetable. I'll read out next time to you one paragraph on the human cycle, showing you how difficult it is to self-exceed and why. He illustrates in great detail. You see, I'll show it to you next time. I'll read it out to you next time. But that doesn't matter. Once one has taken the path, one goes on. So
Okay, Kittuda. Yes.
there is nothing to be discouraged. And you are not alone, huh? We are all in the same boat. So anybody else has any question?
I think they're starting to drop off.
Okay, then we'll stop today. And if you have any question, you can always write to me, and I'll be delighted to answer. Right? Aurora
Kittuda,
Yoga,
I will write to you. Yeah.
Thank
I
you,
think,
Kittuda.
yeah. I just wanted to ask, does Aurora Yoga stay in London? Aurora Yoga, she's in London or in India? You can't hear me?
Let me see if she's turned on.
Shivika, is in Singapore. There's no problem with that, right? Varsha is in Germany.
I don't think she could hear you. I don't think she knows you were talking to her.
Doesn't matter. We'll find out next time. So I think we can call it. We'll meet next Sunday. Right.
We'll look forward to it.
What?
We'll look forward to it, and I'll put a notice over on the Ideal of Human Unity site, and that's a whole different group, and we'll see if they want to join us when we start that new study.
Absolutely no problem.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kittuda, for coming today.
Bye.
And thank you, everybody, for being here. We're sorry about the quality of the sound. I think it's just the YouTube connection.
I'll get it improved definitely next time.
Okay.
I'll ring up right now and see that it is done.
I really think that it's the YouTube connection. I don't think it's your computer.
Because I am able to hear him okay actually for me.
No, I'll take care.
I'm also able to hear like perfectly.
Next time,
Um,
definitely you'll find it very much improved. I have now upgraded to Windows 10, and I think that is one of the main reasons why this is giving some problem. But next Sunday, no problem. I can assure you of that.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you all then.
Yeah. Right.
Bye, everybody.